may be losing the Democratic primary, but his ideas continue to be popular, especially as COVID-19 continues to spread. Now, support for Medicare for all among all U.S. voters has reached a new high, according to a Morning Consult political tracking poll. Now, the survey released on Wednesday found that 55% of U.S. voters now support a single-payer healthcare system. That is a 9-point jump since February. While support for Medicare for all is highest among Democratic voters at 75%, a majority of independents, 52%, support the policy, along with 31% of Republicans. Morning Consult's Yusur Murad wrote that the poll conducted between March 27th and 29th suggests progressive lawmakers may have an opportunity to sway key demographics. Support for Medicare for all grew among people in the $50,000 to $100,000 income brackets, and voters between 45 and 54, and Black voters by roughly 10 points each. Now, notice those are the groups that Bernie Sanders generally has had difficulty reaching, right? Older Black voters weren't exactly sold on the policies. Older voters generally, and people who are wealthier, didn't go for that policy. They're like, oh, no, we like our employer-sponsored health insurance. Well, now a lot of people are losing that employer-sponsored health insurance, and now they're going, oh, wait, maybe we should rethink this. Medicare for all, where are you? Now, she also noted that with the discussion of enacting a universal healthcare system in the United States intensifying, 43% of voters say they are more likely to support reforms to grant all Americans health insurance from the government because of the COVID-19 outbreak. Notably, that support does not include the frontrunner in the Democratic primary presidential election, former Vice President Joe Biden. So that is an interesting voice, right? That is missing in this. Joe Biden will never support Medicare for all. He said that he'd veto it if it ever came to his desk, and just recently doubled down on his opposition to it.
Because as you've been seeing, our healthcare system seems to be crumbling underneath this crisis. There is not enough. There's not enough support for the healthcare system. There's not enough support for the American people inside of the healthcare system. Are you now reconsidering your position when it comes to single-payer healthcare?
Single payer will not solve that at all. The thing that is needed is, for example, we have a whole number of hospitals that are being so stretched, including rural hospitals, they're going to need more financing. That doesn't come from a single payer system. That comes from the federal government stepping up and dealing with the concerns that they have, the reimbursement that they're going to get, how they're going to be able to move forward, and how they're going to be able to provide all the needed help that are needed in their community.
All right, so look, again, earlier, Joe Biden also said, if it came to my desk, I would veto it. Now, understand, right? You could say that he is too rigid in his position. Why would you refuse a bipartisan effort to get things done, Joe? I mean, what's the issue here? Now, look, the reason I say that, and I present it in that way, is because that's exactly the same framing that they used to go after Bernie Sanders. It's too rigid. He's too rigid. He's terrible working with people, and therefore not qualified to get things done or to lead because he can't get things done. Well, now, wait a minute here. So Joe Biden is saying, look, if I become the nominee, if I become the president of the United States, well, look, normal people would think, okay, who would be leading that effort to get things through Congress, right? To get Medicare for all through Congress. It would be somebody like Bernie Sanders, right? It's his bill in the Senate. Pramila Jayapal's bill in the House, right? She's a progressive. And so they would both be pushing that bill, right? If they somehow got that through Congress, and by the way, you would need moderates and you would need conservatives in order to pass it, right? It would be a monumental undertaking. And if it were to pass in that extremely unlikely and extraordinary scenario, Joe Biden is saying, I still will not sign this bill. Think about that for a moment. Think about that, right? And then think about the current crisis going on. Think about the fact that insurers are planning a 40% rate hike in the next year because of COVID-19. Think about the fact that millions have lost their jobs and their employer-sponsored healthcare. Biden does not give a damn about that. Now switch the position, right? Say if Bernie Sanders somehow became president, and say Congress got together in a bipartisan way and had a public option, and they passed that and they sent his to his desk. Do you think Bernie Sanders would honestly look at that and go, public option, veto, no chance, no health care. We're going to keep it status quo unless we get Medicare for all? No, that's absolutely preposterous. That would never happen. How do I know that? Let's go back to the giant corporate welfare bill, right? That stimulus, right? That went through Congress. Trillions of dollars going to corporations and the rich, and a little bit of help for regular people in the form of expanded unemployment benefits. That is something that Bernie Sanders fought for and got put in the bill. And then when Republicans tried to block that piece, Bernie Sanders said, not on my watch, and threatened to hold up the bill and got those 4 congressmen to back off. So if you've got unemployment now, which you wouldn't have before, you can thank Bernie Sanders for that. So now the reason I point to that situation is just the most recent example of where Bernie Sanders will do the right thing, right? Passing that bill, as terrible as it was, and as much as I hated it, and I imagine Bernie Sanders hated it, there was something good in there for regular working people, something that was absolutely 100% necessary. Same situation, right? Public option comes to Bernie Sanders' desks. He's going to be like, well, this is obviously not enough. We need Medicare for all. I'm going to pass it. I'm going to sign it because people need help now. But really, Congress, you should do better. That's the situation, right? That's what's going to happen. And so it's not what he wants, but it's positive change. And someone like Sanders, progressives, look, we will take positive change. We will, but we'll fight for more. And that's kind of the difference between the centrist moderates and progressives. Yeah, we'll take some moderate change. We'll take some small change, but that's not going to shut us up. That's not going to stop us from fighting for more. And so that's the thing. When Obama and Biden, they passed the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, there's a big pat on the back, and they said, well, we're done. Healthcare reform. Nailed it. On to the next thing. When in reality, this is just health insurance reform. There wasn't even a public option in it. In fact, that got dropped because the more conservative Democrats weren't interested in it. See, under a progressive, yes, we would still have those moderate, mild changes, right? But we're not going to stop fighting. Like, yes, you pass something and then you don't go, okay, job's over. We're done, right? But historic reform. No, it's going to be like, yeah, it's a good step. Now, here's what I want you to do. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep doing more and more and more. Let's keep adding on to that. Now, later on, in order to try to get re-election and to beat Donald Trump, that's when the centrist Democrats and the moderates come out and say, oh, no, we're going to tweak Obamacare. We're going to make it better. Okay, we're going to add on to it. Why weren't you doing that from the beginning? You should have. You should have been doing that from the beginning, because this was only supposed to be a small step towards actually getting universal health care. I remember Obama talking about that, right? Oh, no, Obamacare, the ACA is going to be a small step, and then we're going to eventually get universal health care. But that eventually never happens, because once they get that small reform, well, that's it. That's my legacy. I'm good. They never cared about covering every American. They never cared about the people. All they care about is their legacy. And that's unfortunately what we're going to see from someone like Joe Biden. But with Bernie, with Medicare for all, the whole point is to help people, to help as many people as we can. And so I can only hope that, as our healthcare system has fallen apart already, right? And I hate the fact that it was weak enough to begin with to be able to fall apart. I'm hoping that at least one of the good things that comes from this is more support for Medicare for all. And people saying that, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we should continue to fight for this. Because the effects of what we're going through right now, it's not, when it's over, it's not just going to be over and then everything's hunky-dory back to business. No, it's going to take a very long time for people to recover. It took years years for people to recover from the Great Recession. And even to this day, there's a lot who didn't recover. But again, we're going to need these policies going forward more than ever, because there's going to be so much financial pain in this country. And a lot of it is going to be medical debt. Understand. And we already had this problem before, but now it's going to be on steroids. So the question used to be, when we talk about Medicare for all, fine, but how can we afford to do it? Whereas the question now is, how can we afford not to do it? Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.